Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Melick and psychic demonologist Jennifer Celsi-Melick as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rylander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Melick.
Hello, everybody, and happy Friday.
Paraversal Universe is produced by Kat Hobson, the voice of Fate Magazine Radio, over at WBHM Digital Broadcasting, out of Birmingham, Alabama. We're also heard on WCET 101.7 FM out of Columbia, South Carolina, and the Rift Radio Network, family based out of Lakeside, Virginia. Welcome, one and all. And hello to everyone in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. The archive for the show will be available as well. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places all over the web, including our archives-like page on Facebook, called Paraversal Universe Show Archives. Also check out our guest promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio, for what's upcoming in the near future. And we hope everyone's doing well, as always. We are now well into November. It's getting cold up here in northern Wisconsin, as the leaves have pretty much fallen. I think we got an early Arctic blast, but be that as it may, we have a killer show for you today, as we welcome Richard Sennett to the show. But first, as always, let's do our shout-outs. Shout-outs go to those people who share our show banners on a regular basis and those folks that we are aware of. We appreciate it greatly and thank you kindly. So who do we have for this week?
This week we have Walt Christos, Thoughts of Christos, Katrina Cooper, Rhodey Speak, Dennis Koch, Cindy Lou, Robert Bull, Howie O'Dell, The Orion Effect, Gene Broida, Metaphysical Bounce, Kat Hobson at WBHM, Lawrence Demiza, Lisa Reynaga, Sudan, Lori Kreslaw, Ty Ward, Steve Carrington, Anomalous Universe, Dr. Chuck Kennedy, Project PSI Institute, Fate Magazine Radio, Clairvoyance, Todd David Anderson, Beyond Ultra Popular, Jock Brokus, Paranormal Daily News, D.M. Siegling, Tom McGuire, Steve Hemingway, Stephen Bruce, Scott Mardis, Zombie Plesiosaurus Society, Aaron Stewart, Gavin Lee Davies, The Paranormal Chronicles.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. So Okay, today's guest is truly a modern-day pioneer in the field of ghost hunting. Richard Sennett is an archaeologist, historian, ghost hunter, haunted tour guide, and an author of countless books. In fact, there are so many we'll have to ask him specifically for the number on that, on the paranormal and ghost hunting, and I know he's got some on other stuff too. I've been a fan of Richard's work for years. I know Jennifer has.
Oh, definitely.
Every time he comes on the show, or we see him on TV, we're like, yay, Richard Sennett. So it's been 4 years, and we're very glad to have him back on. Richard, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for coming on Paraversal Universe.
Well, glad to be here. I always like talking to you guys. You have the right attitude toward the paranormal.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yes. First off, I want to say that we think your work and dedication is also amazing. And thank you for being you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you. It's so much out there, but I try to stress my main message is we need to have unity in the paranormal field. We can't be feuding with each other. We're never going to advance the science of the study of the paranormal unless we go beyond egos and really strive to work together to get some answers to these great questions.
That's like the best statement one could make coming straight out.
I completely agree. There needs to be more unity and less diversity.
Yeah, and you for sure. And the scientific methodology is really important too. I'm glad, and you're a scientist, of course.
Well, I don't know if I call myself a scientist. In fact, in many ways, I'm more a student. And there are a few experts. In fact, I say probably when it comes to the study of ghosts, there are no experts. We're all students. We're all learning, and we don't have the answers. And whatever anyone says that they do, start to roll your eyes because no one does. We're all learning.
Yes. Well, that's exactly. That's the unknown and unexplained. And there's a reason it's the unknown and unexplained, because we don't have these answers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We know you live in California.
Yeah, that's true.
And just before the show, we touched on the adversities you've had out there in California. Have any of those terrible fires or power outages affected you at all?
Not the power outages in our area, but the fires have, and it's really awful. First there's the smoke that just comes in and drops ash all over your cars and everything, and it's hard to breathe. And we were right close to one of the big fires, so we could actually, out our back window, see the flames on the hills. It's very scary. So we've had that, and now we've had a chain of earthquakes hit us, and it is scary. I mean, the weather's great here in California. We have a beautiful sun, 70 degrees, balmy, summery sort of day, but then again, we've got to put up with these horrible fires and then the earthquakes and other situations. So no place is perfect, but this is home, and so I'll survive.
Our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family, as well as the families of those out there being affected by all of this.
Well, we're not done with the fire season. We may have some more. And then right after it comes the rainy season, where it rains like the monsoon. I mean, days and days of solid rain. And now with the fires, we may have mudslides. So we've got our share of problems to worry about.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. All of it, any of which.
Mm-hmm.
And to have all of it going on, earthquake this day, mudslide this day, fires, I can't even imagine. That's crazy.
So it's we don't have snow, and we don't have those adversities, nor do we have typhoons or hurricanes, but we've got our own little share of mishaps hitting us. So, but it makes an interesting place to live.
Yes. California does sound like that, an interesting place to live.
True. True.
Okay, so obviously there's so much we can discuss. Before we get into your books, we had brought up that you are an archaeologist also, and if I remember from our last conversation, you specialize in Spanish colonial archaeology.
Yeah,
and
you have to specialize in archaeology. You can't just be an archaeologist. You have to have a particular thing, such as you study buttons, or you study cloth, or you study Native Americans, or you study, in my instance, it was the old missions and early California adobes and stuff like that through the Southwest.
And, everyone who knows Richard Sennett knows about the California missions. It's true. And actually, I'd have to say not that I'm one of my favorite episodes, ghost hunting that I've seen on TV had to do with the California missions when you were on ghost adventures.
Yeah, that was wild. In fact, I would have cut it differently. There was so many different things happened that didn't end up in the show. And I felt kind of sad. I could have made a whole new episode just on what they chopped out. It was really
talk about some
a
of that?
fascinating study. Oh, sure. And it's the California missions are where we started as a civilized area. With the Spanish and then later Mexico and then finally the United States. But it all began here, and these gigantic adobe buildings are still around, and they're still testaments of great faith. Now, I've always been fascinated by them, but it was while I was doing a dig at one of the missions, San Antonio de Padua, if you're at all interested, I actually saw a ghost. Now, I'd seen things in the past when I was younger, but I always dismissed them. I said, oh, that's overactive imagination. That's a reflection. I just thought I saw something. But it wasn't until I'd been on this dig late one night, we were actually staying at the old mission with the Padres, where I saw in the courtyard a monk. I thought, oh, one of the brothers is up. I'll go talk to him. Well, I walked up to him, and he just disappeared. He vanished right in front of my eyes, and I couldn't deny it. I had been watching this for some time. My eyes never left him, and then all of a sudden, he wasn't there anymore. And that just caused me to rethink a lot of my belief system, and I started to wonder what ghosts were, and I began to study them. I read everything that I could on the subject, and then, of course, I started to investigate myself, going to places I knew, people I knew that said they had ghosts. And little by little, I developed a methodology and wrote letters and made phone calls to top ghost hunters at that time, and managed to get to know them and actually get some good advice and instruction from them. And that's what really started me on this 40-year quest, which I'm still on. I still don't have all the answers, but I'm out looking, and I'm convinced that there are answers out there. And I have found a few things that I can say that seem to be pointing the way towards an explanation.
So you had mentioned some material that was cut out.
Ghost adventures. Okay, let me get back into that. It's the mission San Antonio de Padua. Is in Lompoc, California. And at that particular mission, which has been totally restored, they had a battle. The goal of the Padres was to change the Indians into good civilized subjects of the Spanish crown. That's what their goal was, turn them into good peasants they could exploit. And, they finally, when Mexico took over, they raised all the taxes. And the native people just didn't like it. They didn't want to work harder and pay more, which they had to do under Mexico, so they went into rebellion. And they fortified the mission, acquired cannons or muskets, and the Spanish had a great big battle to retake it from the Native American rebels. And in the battle, lots of people died. Well, because of that conflict, wherever there's a battle, there's ghosts. It's something that happens. And it is one of the most haunted of all the missions. I did a year-long study of the mission, going up there, spending time talking to people, doing all the research, collecting data. And I was asked by Ghost Adventures to use my expertise to tell them about the mission for one of their lockdowns. Well, I went up there, and we met with Zach and his crew. And by the way, Zach is just as crazy in real life as he is on television. The same guy. He's not like putting on anything. A lot of these TV people are one thing on camera and a whole different thing off camera. Well, they asked us to go through the place with a camera and the sound crew, and I was to point out the most haunted locations. That sounds like a good idea. So we went to one room in the Padres building where they lived. There was a bedroom. It's very haunted. We walked in the door, and the minute we walked in that room, it was very cold, all their camera batteries went dead. And they were freaking out. They were going, "What's happening? What's happening?" Or your batteries have been drained. Don't you have spares? Oh, these are new batteries. They can't be. Well, anyway, I asked her, well, how long have you been hunting ghosts? All the time. So where have you been hunting them at? Disneyland or something? The Haunted Mansion? This is something you've got to account for. But they were freaking out like it was the first time that ever happened. Well, they had all sorts of things happen. Now, that bedroom is legitimately haunted. I even saw a ghost there myself once. So I don't see a lot of them, remarkably. Here I am, a ghost hunter, yet I've only had a handful of actual sightings I've seen with my own eyes. They did that, but did they include that in the show? No, they cut that out because it made them look bad.
Right.
So they, I understand they have ratings to do and all that, but lots of things that were, they tried to do what I call re-stimulation, which is something that I've found works and many other ghost hunters are doing it. And that is, if you can create a certain situation, a vibration, if you will, or what have you, it helps to enhance the ability to recover psychic data. In other words, if you dress up in a costume like someone of that era, if you do something like that they would have done a long time ago, such as a haunted tavern, well, drink some beer and do a little dancing or listen to music of that era. It seems to increase your ability to pick up information, to get paranormal events to happen, to see or record phantoms, or get messages through ESP or EVP or ESP or what have you. But I found that is called re-stimulation. So I asked them to go in and, say something in Spanish in one of the chapels. They did manage to do something like that, not what I would have liked, but they did get some information that way. So sadly enough, a lot of the material that was gathered there never found its way into their TV show. There was one event they did have happen where they saw a figure outside.
Can we have a pause right there and
sure,
take a commercial break, and then we can get back to just where you are leaving off, if we can.
Okay.
This is Paraversal Universe. It is time for our first commercial break. We will be right back with our guests for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming. To the skeptic, there will never be enough. Hello everyone. Join Kevin and Jennifer Malik, the host of Paraversal Universe, every Friday here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM and The Rift. Log on or tune in as they check out the mysteries found within the 8 categories of the unknown and unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, cryptids and monsters, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, metaphysics, and forbidden archaeology. Listen as Kevin and Jennifer interview the top minds in their respective fields as they share theories and information regarding these unsolved mysteries. For future show and archive information, one can find Paraversal Universe on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe under various Paraversal Universe headings. So, for excellent talk radio about the unknown and unexplained, check out Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, LTD, and produced by WBHM-DB.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Alrighty, we are back from the first commercial break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. And I'd like to take a minute to thank everyone who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic art director Lawrence D. Miza, music theme by Matt Stenz, announcer Frank Lee, producer and owner of WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Kat Hobson, also to Howie Odell and Lisa Renaga and the Rift family, and to Michael Vera over at WCET-FM. Thank you all for carrying our content and working together on our behalf and the behalf of our audience everywhere.
Yes, thank you.
And of course, a huge thank you to God in heaven, whose strength beyond strength is stronger than all, for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all.
Amen.
And appreciation to the various platforms we are on, including Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Twitch, YouTube, Dailymotion, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Blog Talk, Podbean, Google Play, Mixcloud, and the Paranormal Livestream app, which is streamed and restreamed from various other outlets all over the world via the internet. This segment of Paraversal Universe is brought to you by the Paranormal Daily News, who have a page on their website dedicated to Paraversal Universe, including the Paralogian Report, where our latest episodes are listed and linked. And this episode will be there too. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking to Richard Sennett, ghost hunter extraordinaire, author of many books. Richard, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so when we left off, you were telling us about some deleted scenes from one of the shows you were on. And we had cut you off right before you were going to get into another one.
Well, you're absolutely right. The biggest finding they had was that night they got an image of what appears to be a Spanish soldier. I wasn't there, so I can't really say what they caught, what they did or didn't see, but it did appear to be a uniform of a Spanish soldier. But it is a very haunted place, one of the more haunted ones in the United States. And I think it has to do with the fact that there was a bloody battle fought there at that particular mission. Of course, any place where you have armed conflict is haunted. It's just maybe has something to do with all the people who lost their lives. Gettysburg in the United States comes to mind. So many people died there, including some of my ancestors. And it was a bloody battle. Many of the Civil War battles are haunted, as is Pearl Harbor. Any place where conflicts have been waged, you're going to find stories of ghosts and accounts with phantoms.
That's have you been to Gettysburg?
No, I have not, oddly enough. I've been invited. In fact, some of the ghost hunters there have invited me out there, but of course, I haven't had the time or the resources to go out there. I'd love to go someday because, as I say, one of my people in my family was killed on the second day of that battle. Remarkably, my wife, her family were Southerners, and she lost a member of her family on the second day as well. So I wonder if they shot each other. One was wearing blue and the other gray. And but so we would have a lot of family reasons, historical as well as paranormal reasons to investigate that battlefield site.
You know, we've never been there either. And same thing, we don't, the scheduling and resources, but one of these days, sooner or later, we hope to get out there because it certainly is such a notable haunted place. It would make, the top 10 of any haunted list.
Yeah, it's on our bucket list.
Yeah, it's on the bucket list for sure. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
The places where battle has happened, where there's so many casualties and so much pain and suffering, not all those kills were nice, clean kills. I mean, there were people that suffered in agony and so for sure. Agreed.
Just so many spots like that where people have, died awfully. And fortunately out here in California, we haven't had a lot of battles fought, and those that were fought here were very small for the most part, with just dozens and hundreds of casualties where thousands died in many of these other encounters back in the southern states, Civil War sites. So it's historical. Reading through history, because I am a historian, the first really remarkable ghost site we get is the Battle at Marathon in Greece. People talked about ghosts there in ancient times. Yes. So this is a motif which has gone on throughout up to the modern era.
Battlegrounds and hospitals.
Mm-hmm. Hospitals, very haunted. All of it, and even modern ones, because now in the past, hospitals must have been hideous places. I mean, they didn't understand, infection or anything, germs or things like that. So it must have been awful killing grounds there. But even today, with all of our modern techniques, so many of these hospitals are haunted that I know of just 3 locally. And then another thing are mental hospitals. People who are sent there who are mad, insane, and they all are haunted. It must have something to do with the mind. We have an interesting case here in California, Camarillo State Hospital, which has now been converted from a hospital, beautiful buildings built back in the 30s, into a college. And yes, it's haunted. I'm getting all kinds of stories of different ghostly encounters with the new students. In fact, many are afraid to walk around at night over there because of their phantom encounters. So that's, again, another thing. Hospitals and mental asylums.
Reminds me of, which hospital is that in Los Angeles, the Linda Vista, where they turned that into a living quarters, and the thought is, obviously there was no thought whatsoever given to any spirituality or anything along those lines, just to say we're going to take this obviously it wasn't considered, and money trumps, I guess, in this world. But that's you hear about that stuff a lot.
But it's not only that hospital. I mean, there's some across the country that have been not necessarily torn down, but converted into apartments.
Yeah.
And then you always got to wonder, with the history and what went on, if there's any activity and how intense is it, and what are those people experiencing?
Well, people had that at a local hospital. They turned it into a senior citizens establishment and housing. And, of course, all kinds of stories of ghosts happen there. It's just quite amazing. But also, what about places that are built over cemeteries? None of those come to anything good. Burial grounds seem to have their own supernatural link, and people who build over cemeteries can many times be haunted right off the bat.
Yeah, we were just discussing one on Paralogian Report not too long ago in Florida.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. And
they were checking the ground for something under a housing development, and they found like a couple of hundred coffins.
Graves.
Yeah.
Yep. And as it turns out, the place has got paranormal activity.
There's a link, and I found that link in California, and other ghost centers have confirmed this throughout the nation and in Europe as well. It's just not a good idea to build over a cemetery or something like that. It's something that people should be alerted to. And I don't know, I think people get so caught up in the quest for money that many times they sort of, leave out those little unpleasant elements that might have something to do with ghosts. But what is a ghost? We don't even know what they are. I do find links, though. One link I've found are people that are very egomaniacal, people who are kind of driven to succeed, people who just have something that motivates them. They tend to come back as a ghost. So consequently, places of great ego tend to be haunted. Here in California, you might call it the ghost capital of the West would be Hollywood, because you can't find more ego than there. But nationally, one of the most haunted places is Washington, D.C., amount of ego in that zone is tremendous. Or the White House. And think about it. Everyone talks about the president being an egomaniac, but then again, 90% of our presidents were egomaniacs. You can't, get the job unless you're a little bit nuts, I think. And so consequently, they tend to be haunted, these sites, and like the White House is rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of several different presidents, including Abraham Lincoln.
We just had Jeff Bellinger on not too long ago, and he just put out.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Great guy.
Yeah. I believe he just put out a book about.
Yes, about Lincoln's ghosts in the White House.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Pretty cool. Definitely. And you're right. Yeah. I mean, like Washington D.C. Egomaniac. Totally.
Right.
And same thing with the
like
Hollywood.
a good thing that goes with the haunting of President Lincoln is the fact that his wife would throw seance parties and stuff in the White House. So I'm not really surprised to know that his spirit has been sighted around the White House. You
know, it's interesting too. Two things, and they kind of tie into each other. Incidentally, I guess. But the idea that the first thing is that when Trump and his wife moved in, they insisted that a deliverance or exorcism, both. I think they had people from several clergy in there. They had like a total of 70-some priests, ministers, reverends, pastors, rabbis, not rabbis. But anyways, to go around the place and do their thing. Which is
blessing, yeah. Now, by the way, the Jewish faith does have blessings as well. In fact, as do the Muslims and Hindus. In fact, all of the major religions, in fact, even some that aren't so major, all have blessings to get rid of evil spirits or negative connotations or whatever you want to call them.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't remember specifically who was there, so I didn't want to include anyone I wasn't sure about. And I know that they're Christian.
Right.
So I included the Christian ones, but absolutely and that's the thing with like where spirit attachments and the whole demonology thing is that when you look at it from afar, you realize that all these different faith bases have their ways of dealing with these things, and they have success rates.
Yeah. In fact, when Putin was elected as Russia's president, he stays in the same buildings in the Kremlin, the Latin stadium where he was the ruler of Russia, and his ghost has been seen there. And so he actually had priests go and exorcise the place to get rid of any negative spirits that might be in the Kremlin. So you can see these things are pretty universal all the way around.
Yes. And the other thought, which I said incidentally ties, is we were talking about mental hospitals. And I know that, like, for instance, it wasn't too long ago, we were talking about that the Hindu doctor that got hired in America, and he worked at a mental hospital. He was a doctor. And he felt that some of the patients there were demonically possessed. And he had actually gone so far as to approach the board and say, there's a patient that I'd like to do how how we treat him back home, and they allowed him to do it. And I guess like within a month, that patient left the building, and he was there for like 20-some years.
Yeah, he was completely sane, and the doctor did it because this particular man would come up to him and tell him that the staff at the hospital wouldn't help him because he had something hitting him on the head constantly. And whenever he would complain about it, they would kind of just do whatever they did and give him stuff and put him in sedation. And this guy, like Kevin just said, was able to come and work with them and actually free him of this attachment.
It could very well be that a lot of these ancient sorts of exorcisms, like Jesus exorcised the evil spirits from several people in biblical times, many of them might have a certain basis in fact. So, trying everything, I think, is the best way to go. But if you have one idea, and that is, mental illnesses caused by repressed sexual anxiety or something, or Freudian ideas. No wonder you could kind of get blocked by what you could do. And so I'm willing to try anything as long as it works. I was doing a study on interesting science called cryptobiology.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of botanicals, and I've heard of cryptozoology, obviously, and paracryptozoology. But please explain.
It's about lost mythic plants and trying to find them and rediscover them. Yeah, so cool. Cryptobotanical elements. So it's an interesting study, but they actually had a study of a particular tree. And it wasn't a tree so much as a shrub, which produced a leaf that could be made into a healing tea. And that's where we get the word Tara from the old mummy movies. The Tara leaves. There really was a plant that died out 2,000 years ago. But they said if you drank the tea of this plant, it would make people who are mentally insane, it would turn them into normal. So, and it was treasured, this plant. In fact, they actually saved bits and pieces of it up to the 15th century. They had hoarded some of the leaves up to that time, but the plant's gone now. But if we could only find it again, wouldn't that be great? Maybe we could solve some of our mental problems with some of these other ways of handling them that we like to try today.
I would go. Part of me wonders if some of these things aren't are allowed to die out, so to speak. And I hate to say that. I don't think there's a conspiracy. I've heard things like that. Like if they ever found a way to cure cancer, all these doctors would be out of work. I don't think you have to worry about that, because if we ever found a cure for cancer, there'd be something else come up, which would just be as fatal. So life is fatal. I think we're all going to die someday. Yeah. No one has figured out a way to stop the death process.
Okay. And with that, it is time for our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We'll be right back with our guests for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM-DB WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our second commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Before we get back to the show, we want to tell you all that we are on MeWe and Twitter, like and group pages on Facebook or under various headings as well. Having said that, check out our Societies Like page on Facebook, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malik, Psychic Demonologist. Leave a like if you like what you see. We always appreciate it. This segment is brought to you by the Paranormal Chronicles and by the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Check out his Facebook group pages, Kindred Forests and Indigenous Americas. And also check out the Breezer Files on YouTube. Nick and Heather Breezer, they're also members of the NWPS. And they put out paranormal content as well. So go check that out if you get a chance. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed live in the chat room. And let's get back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking to Richard Sennett. Are you still with us, Richard?
Yes, I still am.
Awesome. So, I guess, are you still doing the ghost tours?
Yes, I still am. As a matter of fact, I'm going out tonight to go out and investigate an old house, and we're going to see what we find.
Ooh. So can you tell us a little bit about the tours you do? Maybe take a minute.
Oh, I do.
For people in your area.
Okay, I pretty much do most of my work in my hometown of Ventura, California. And we do a variety of different historical as well as ghostly tours, though I must admit that ghost tours are the most popular. We also I do tours in the little town of Ojai, an artist community 15 miles north of us, with a history that dates back to the time of the Spanish. It's a beautiful little town. So I do investigations throughout the area, down into Los Angeles and Hollywood, where my family came from long ago. They were originally from Wyoming. Then they came west in the 1920s to make movies. They ended up in Hollywood. And all of my family still have relatives in what they call the industry. It's in Hollywood. Now, they weren't cameramen, nor were they directors or movie stars, even though they were in a few movies as extras and such. They were carpenters. They built sets and sound stages and things of that nature. They were grips. They were people behind the camera as rather than in front of it. But they went through the entire era of the Golden Age. My dad was a painter. He helped to paint the Wizard of Oz, the sets, the Munchkin Town. So, in fact, 5 of my ancestors, my relatives, worked on the Wizard of Oz. So it's they knew Mickey Rooney and Dorothy Garland and all the other people. So there's a lot of stories there. And a lot of the ghost stories I got from Hollywood, I actually picked up around the dinner table where the family would get together. Oh, Soundstage 28, it's got a ghost. Oh, this place has a ghost. Did you hear about this? So I got them right around the dinner table so much. It wasn't hard to collect those. And I also gave me a lot of contacts in the business so I could get onto the lots or get contacted and asked to investigate a number of the old mansions and homes that are reported to be haunted. And again, I was talking to you about ego and all that. And yeah, it's full of it in Hollywood. What did Errol Flynn say? He said, nothing wrong with Hollywood that a good earthquake couldn't solve. And it's a strange, quirky place. Always has been, always will be. And it's not glamorous, as they say. That it never was glamorous. It's just a remarkable place that attracts very creative and very psychic people. Because creative people tend to be psychic, and psychic people see ghosts. So we have every studio is haunted, every one. There's no exceptions. Even studios which are no longer studios that have been converted into radio stations or something like that, they're all haunted, every one.
Wow. All the history and who, and so much of it.
Yeah, well, as I say, my family was here when they were making silent movies with hand-crank cameras, and knew some of the family that were here originally. In fact, one of my relatives was the director Max Sennett, who did the Sennett comedies and discovered the little English gypsy named Charlie Chaplin. And so it's That's remarkable place.
Charlie Chaplin.
Mm-hmm. Talk about an icon.
Yeah.
Strange fellow.
I remember watching his movies with my mom when I was a kid.
He was a strange guy, genius. I mean, he wrote music, wrote the plays, directed the plays, started the plays. He worked really hard. And, of course, he had his own picadillos besides being kind of a communist. He also liked young women, really young women, and, 12 and 14, things like that. And but on the good side, whenever he did have a relationship, he usually always married the girl. So he would get permission from their parents and, of course, marry them. So he had a number of marriages. I think the oldest woman he ever married was 18. And usually they would have a child, and then as soon as they had a child, they weren't children anymore. He wasn't interested in them. And he'd find another leading. So he had his own quirks, as they say. But a genius, that's true, he was.
Yeah, and a daredevil. Oh, my Lord. Some of the stuff he used to do, I mean, that's like, I'm not going to say it's Harry Houdini stuff, but it was. Some of it was pretty
stunts,
crazy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, many of the silent actors were like that. They just they didn't believe in stunt doubles so much. They just did it right there. And it was a strange business. Like a lot of people lost their lives in filming, and they still do, as a matter of fact, but not as much as they used to. And that's why many of these places are, in fact, haunted. And I've had some wonderful encounters with doing investigations. One of the best was at the Goldwyn Mansion. Samuel Goldwyn was a G in the MGM, and I was asked to go out and investigate his mansion, which has been restored. A couple live in it now. Beautiful place and monstrous size. In fact, it's more like a little hotel than a real house. Can't really call it a house. It was giant. It looked kind of like Norma Desmond's house in Sunset Boulevard. It was just monstrous. But they had a persistent ghost, and we were able to develop communication with the ghosts, and we discovered who it was and why they were there. A silent movie star called von Strongheim had been hired by Goldwyn and then fired by him for kind of breaking the rules, and as such his ghost haunts there. So we were able to find that out. That was a great investigation. But we've gone to many of the places that are rumored to have a ghost or three, of which you can't hardly go to Beverly Hills and look at some of these old places and not find one that isn't haunted. They're as haunted as English manor houses from the 18th century. And why? Well, because in silent Hollywood, when they were built, they were wild. You don't study them, but they took cocaine. They had more drugs than we do today, wild parties, but it was all covered up and plastered over by the studios so that never got out. But they had parties that would make rock stars blush. It was pretty wild stuff. And so consequently, those places are haunted.
You know, that's another place that seemed to be haunted, are the brothels.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many of them.
Right. And what I found it's a pattern. In fact, a good friend of mine named Oberding, Joanne, she did a study of haunted brothels in Nevada where prostitution is still legal. And yeah, they have many of the ladies who work there tell about encountering ghosts today. We're not talking about long ago. And historically, many of the places I've gone to here in California, where illegal prostitution was once done, I've gotten all kinds of stories of different events happening today. And I've found, in fact, I can almost guarantee you a lot of these old hotels, which deteriorated and became brothels, are haunted. They have all kinds of stories. I was asked to investigate a place in Long Beach. You know, World War II happened, and California really grew in population as bases were filled with young men and ships going to fight the war in the Pacific. And Long Beach was a big harbor, it still is, and they had a large brothel there. And the couple who bought it and restored this beautiful house that they purchased back in the 80s complained of seeing naked women running around. And they called me in, and of course I immediately discovered a few things. One, it had a really large living room and dining room, like abnormally large. Then I noticed upstairs had all these little tiny bedrooms. They weren't very big. There was just lots of them.
Yep. You know,
and I'm going, yeah. And they had actually torn the walls down on some to expand them, but they had so I did the research, and I found out that the home was in fact used during World War II. Well, there were two different kinds of brothels. There were the kinds where you paid a lot of money and you got to spend time with the well-dressed, well-manicured ladies of the night. And they also served steak dinners and booze and gambling and other illegal activities, as well as sex. But if you didn't have a lot of money, you weren't an officer in the Navy or something, you got to go to the other kind, which were based upon volume. The most, you pay your money and you got to be with a prostitute for like 5 minutes. That's it. So you better be active, because if your time is done, that's done. You're out the door for the next guy. And these kind of places use volume as opposed to quality. And that's what this unfortunately was. And of course, the life of a prostitute was never a good life choice. Many died young. Some were successful. That did happen. Some became, madams in their own right. Some became very wealthy. But the vast majority did not, and I guess still do not, and end up taking their own lives in many instances, or perhaps even being murdered. That happens in a lot of brothels in the past anyway. There was a place I investigated where it was haunted by a headless woman. And the story there was that she was the mistress of a powerful politician from the last century. And she decided to surprise her boyfriend by taking off all of her clothes and hiding in the closet. And then she would pop out and surprise him. Right? And she was waiting for him. He came into the room, and he had his men with him. And of course, she didn't come out because he had company, so she hid and listened. And they plotted the murder of a political rival. And she overheard it all. And when the men went out to do their bidding, they discovered her, and she had heard too much. So he had her killed, strangled right then and there. You know, dead men tell no tales. And to make sure they couldn't identify the body, they cut off her head and her hands. So they couldn't get fingerprints.
Richard, it's time.
Yeah.
We continue this conversation after our next break.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
This is a Fox News alert. The second open impeachment hearing back underway on Lisa Brady. Ousted ambassador to Ukraine Marie Yovanovitch telling lawmakers she reported concerns to the State Department about a disinformation campaign against her, worried that Ukrainian officials were hearing she might be leaving.
You know, there was maybe somebody else waiting in the wings, etc. And that undermined not only my position, but our U.S. position. The Ukrainians didn't know what to think.
She's answering questions now from a lawyer for Republican lawmakers. There was an unexpected moment in the morning session.
Now the president in real time is attacking you.
Chairman Adam Schiff reading a new tweet from the president criticizing Yovanovitch and later accusing the president of witness intimidation. A former member of President Trump's inner circle is convicted. Roger Stone, guilty on all counts in connection with claims of WikiLeaks contacts during the 2016 campaign. Fox's Evan Brown has this live.
Yeah, Lisa, Roger Stone will remain free for now, but when he's brought back to the federal court in D.C. for sentencing on February 6th, he could be sent to prison for 20 years, having been found guilty now of obstructing justice, lying to Congress, and threatening a witness. Stone has long denied the charges, saying he never had advance knowledge of hacked Democratic Party emails publicized by WikiLeaks. Stone is a longtime political operative whose work on Republican campaigns began with Richard Nixon's re-elections efforts. He also, along with the now imprisoned Paul Manafort and Charlie Black, once operated one of the largest campaign consulting and lobbying firms in Washington, Lisa.
And Evan, President Trump just suggesting in a tweet that Stone's conviction represents an historic double standard, naming a string of people he's accused of lying, including Hillary Clinton and the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff. America is listening to Fox News.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. That's the problem growing businesses have because of a hodgepodge of business systems. One for accounting, another for sales, another for inventory. If that's you, you know it's a mess that takes up too much time and too many resources. And that hurts the bottom line. You need NetSuite by Oracle, the cloud-based business management software that gives you the visibility and control you need to grow. With NetSuite, you save time, money, and unneeded headaches by managing sales, finance and accounting, orders, and HR instantly from your desktop or phone. That's why NetSuite is the world's #1 cloud business system. Companies that use NetSuite grow 3 times faster than the S&P 500. And right now, NetSuite is offering you valuable insights with a free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits at netsuite.com/Fox. That's netsuite.com/Fox to download your free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. netsuite.com/Fox. News Channel.
The man charged with a hate crime for an acid attack last month in Wisconsin is ordered to have psychiatric testing.
In a court hearing in Milwaukee, 61-year-old Clifton Blackwell's attorney is granted a request that he undergo a psych evaluation ahead of a trial on charges he attacked a Hispanic man last month with battery acid. The victim, a U.S. citizen, told police that Blackwell accused him of being in the country illegally. The case being prosecuted as a hate crime. Blackwell's lawyer says his client, a U.S. veteran suffering from PTSD, was in Milwaukee at the time for mental health treatment. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
An NFL player, Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, has just been suspended for at least the rest of the regular season and postseason for swinging a helmet and striking the Pittsburgh quarterback Mason Rudolph in the head. This happened in the final seconds of last night's game against the Steelers, landing Garrett the longest suspension for a single on-field infraction in NFL history. Garrett ripping off Rudolph's helmet and clobbering him on top of the head, which triggered a brawl between the rival teams. The world's largest Starbucks now open for business.
The Starbucks Reserve Roastery is located on the chic, magnificent mile stretch of Michigan Avenue. It is 35,000 square feet. Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson tells Fox Business it offers special ways to brew coffee.
This is all about, sort of a tribute to all things coffee. And so for us to be able to have siphons and, our Black Eagle espresso machines, pour overs, every brew method imaginable, we do it here in the roastery.
There are also coffee-inspired specialty cocktails, and it's available for private parties. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
A rally on Wall Street, the Dow now less than 100 points away from 28K. This is Fox News.
This news report is brought to you by NetSuite by Oracle, the cloud-based business management software that gives you the visibility and control you need to grow. NetSuite is offering their free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits at netsuite.com/Fox.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Paraversal Universe, now in their second hour. Produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We're also heard on the Rift Radio Network out of Virginia and WCET-FM out of South Carolina. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, coming to you from Rylander, Wisconsin, here in the USA at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center. You can always enjoy excellent fringe talk radio for awesome and informative radio shows about the paranormal, supernatural, esoteric, and Fortean topics on this network and affiliate platform websites. Not only our show, but many other good shows about different facets of the unknown and unexplained. Much to listen to and much to enjoy. Stream live on TuneIn, iTunes, or the Paranormal Livestream app, available from Android app and the iTunes Store. This segment is brought to you by the Supernatural Magazine, where the majority of our articles can be read. All right, back to Paraversal Universe. And we were talking with Richard Sennett. Are you still with us, Richard?
I'm still here.
When we left the last break, we were talking about brothels. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because one of the investigations we did this last year was a bar that's haunted. And when you go upstairs from this bar, now it's just they just rent it out as an apartment with many rooms. But when you go there, you see that's one big living room, and there's all these little, like you said, little rooms off of this larger room. And and sure enough, the history was that when they built it, it was a brothel. And the train stopped right across the street. That was the stop for the town. People would get out, they'd go right across the street, right to the bar, get their lodgings, and anything else they needed. And I tell you, that investigation turned out to be our most liked post on Facebook for the NWPS on the like page we have, because it was a place that everybody people were aware of, people knew, and people had heard about this place being haunted for so long. To see that team went out there recently and investigated, it just drew a lot of attention. It was really cool. Anyhow,
brothels are notoriously haunted. It's one place you can almost count on. In fact, many times when I go to a hotel which is rumored to be haunted, I always ask if it ever had that kind of a past.
Right. Yeah, and it does add to that. You're right, because there's so many things going on, I guess, behind the scenes. And a lot of that is, what elements make up a haunting.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Why are some places haunted and other places not? I found that many bed and breakfast establishments are haunted. And again, that may have to do with the fact that people go to these, of course, to have sexual relations. In fact, there's an old theory that dates back from the 1920s that sexual activity actually sort of charges up ghosts. The activity seems to somehow stimulate hauntings. Well, that's an old theory, and I think it might have some validity.
I do too. In fact, we had another case that we worked on where they had things going on, and we investigated it. We were out there a few times, actually, and over the course of the whole thing, we were able to apply what we knew, educate them as we could. We went through everything. We checked everything, from many different spokes on the wheel, like from many different angles. And the one thing that in this particular case, let's just say those clients were sexually promiscuous, right? So they would have parties and stuff. And, it's how do you tell a client, like, your activities, your parties may be charging this. And until you guys cease, you might need to get used to this. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a...
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. It's an old theory. In fact, there was a place in Ventura that is an old hotel built in the 20s. During World War II, it was kind of became a brothel for the sailors at the local Navy base. And the haunting there dates back from that era. A woman was the ghost there, and people have seen her over and over again. Well, a ghost hunter friend of mine from L.A. decided to try the theory from the 1920s, so he brought in all of his equipment. He had cameras, he had thermographic equipment, everything. He brought it all in, wired the room that was haunted for sound, and then he brought in his most important element, his fiancée. And I helped him set up, but I didn't hear from him the next day. And in fact, I didn't hear from him for weeks, nothing. And then I got a videotape in the mail, and I didn't know what it might have, but I plugged it in, and it was only 3 minutes long. And all it showed was the two people in bed, and they were sleeping, one on one side, one on the other. Big double bed. The camera was still pointed at them, still rolling. But as you watched, you could see the covers go up and a third person climb into bed with them.
Oh, wow.
A person without a head or anything. And so you could actually see 3 lumps, hers, whatever it was, and then his in the bed. And then the tape stopped. But it was pretty impressive, and it does tend to confirm that sexual activity might have a link to paranormal events and happenings.
Right.
But I don't think you're going to see that on Ghost Adventures.
No. And that's not prominent in all cases, of course. But for the cases that it is prominent, I think there is a element, a factor. They say, I feel, anyways, intent and perception are the two most important words in the unknown and unexplained. The intent on what we put out and what we're doing, which may in turn cause a problem, or how we perceive things, how we're taking it in and processing that. If you can,
I agree.
If you can work on either one of those aspects with any client, and you could possibly rectify the situation. And I say possibly because nobody can 100% guarantee that they can solve all ghost or spiritual or unknown problems. I mean, nobody can predict the future 100% of the time, all the time.
No, you can't. Yeah. But what I find, that's kind of my bone of contention is so many of the TV shows have turned negative. It's all demons. It's all serial killers. It's all stuff like that. And I have found that in my research, that's not the case. I mean, there is evil out there, but it's very, very rare. It's not commonplace. But if you just watch the TV shows, you'd get the impression that well over half of the hauntings were caused by serial killers or mad people who are causing all this mishap and death and destruction and fear and all that. Now, I understand why they do it. Fear sells. It always has been. That's why we have horror movies or slasher movies and things like that. But it's not conducive to proper research. It's not how reality is.
You're right. I mean, that's like, and when we do have like new investigators join us, once in a while we'll get someone that really doesn't have much experience, and the first thing that we tell them is like, everything you've seen on TV, understand it's fabricated, much of it, some of it's even hoaxed, and you can't, scientifically speaking, you can't trust what you're seeing on there because of that reason.
Very true.
Not to mean that you can't learn about history and places and listen to witnesses and that's all good. We enjoy that, but at the same time, investigations, at least like the residential ones where the family's in distress and upset, you don't work them overnight. Not like on Ghost Hunters or...
No, you can't do it. Ghost Hunters, they have like a week at most at site. Usually it's down to 3 days. And they come in, they go in, they do their little show. The thing you got to remember is they're making a TV show. They're not actually investigating anything. They're making a TV show. When I go out and investigate, many times I'll go back again and again. At La Purissima, where I investigated, that was a year and a half. And of course, you can't do a TV show on something like that because, well, it'd get too boring. I always said if you had a real ghost hunting show, it wouldn't get any ratings at all because it's just hours and hours of nothing, just waiting for something to happen or doing dogged sort of research, hours and hours with books, talking to different people. Could you imagine you turn on a ghost show, the real ghost show, and at the end of the hour, they say, well, we didn't find anything tonight. Nothing happened. Come back next week. Maybe nothing will happen next week or something might. As I tell my students, it's like hours and hours of boredom and tedium for about 5 or 6 minutes of sheer terror. But I live for those 5 or 6 minutes. So it's well worth it. And it's a walk into the unknown. And that's one of the reasons I find it so attractive. There's much we don't know out there. But we've got to be careful, obviously, because we're walking in an unknown country. We don't know what your landmine you're going to step on out there. It's really there are real dangers out there, and ghost hunters have lost their lives many times, not to the ghosts, but to other elements. One fellow was ran over by a train on a haunted bridge. Another person got a very deadly disease from the fecal matter of mice. So it can kill you nonetheless. I almost died when I fell through a trap door in an old 1890 house and wound up breaking ribs and my toes and a lot of other things. And and I've also had other things that were almost life-threatening. And of course, I've gone to places which are not very savory spots and not so good parts of town, and encountered drug dealers and all kinds of living people who are far more scarier than ghosts. And of course, almost met some mishap there, but I survived and
continue to investigate. There are dangers out there. Don't be foolish of thinking that they're not, but don't think they're all just an amulet or something that's going to protect you from mishap.
So many people think that.
Why don't we finish this discussion after our next commercial break?
Okay.
You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We'll be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. So let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on the Rift Radio Network and on the airwaves at WCET-FM. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Our new book, Paraversal Universe, Decade of Diligence, Experiences, Cases, and Insights from the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, should be out, we're going to say, 2 weeks. We're hoping. So it's coming along. It's almost out. There have been a couple minor postponements, but that was just to make the book better. So look for that. This segment is brought to you by the Parasociology Like page on Facebook. Parasociology is the study of how paranormal manifestations and experiences can affect a family, group, or collective. Parasociology also examines how spirituality is practiced in different cultures. So go check that out and leave a like for future content. All right, back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking with Richard Sennett. Richard, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. Before we left off, we were talking about the dangers and the pitfalls of investigations, and I think that that's really important that comes up, because people need to know that what you see on TV doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that in real life, and that you should always be careful and be diligent whenever you go into places investigating.
Mm-hmm. You have to be very aware of your surroundings, be they from living people who might not wish you well to people who, places that might have germs in them, like abandoned places have rat feces, things like that. And of course, places where you could injure yourself with a fall. And I've found in my own research that most ghosts are reflective of the real world. Most ghosts are, in fact, not dangerous. They are, in fact, they're there. Very few are evil or malicious. And on the other side of the coin, very few seem to be helpful and even aware of your presence. So you have that kind of an area. In fact, when I first got involved in this work, I didn't think ghosts could harm you. There are no evil ghosts. That was just folklore, people imagining things. Then after about 9 years of doing it, I came across something really evil. And I had to rethink a lot of my ideas. I thought, well, yeah, evil does exist. Fortunately, it's rare. It doesn't happen a lot. It's a rare event. And it can be very terrifying. And that whatever it is truly wants to scare you and wants you to have an accident or a mishap or can even make you ill. So there are scary things out there. The only thing is, be careful where you go and what you do, and be ready for anything.
Wise words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say like out of the and we agree it is rare. Out of the client cases we get, or the residential stuff, maybe 1 out of 10 will actually fall under the diabolical. Where it's pretty excessive and it meets the criteria for that.
Yeah, very, very true. I've also found that religion has an element in it as well. And if you are, as I say, right with God, that acts as a protection against things as well. If you're well-centered in your own faith, that gives you a bit of protection, the whole armor of God, if you will. And I tell people, if you really have a haunted house, go and if you have a belief system, have a member of that religious group you belong to bless your house. And I believe that many times putting in amulets, statues of saints, if you're a Catholic, or pictures, or things of that nature, if you're a Hindu, Krishna, or something like that, these can be beneficial in excising negative spirits or energies.
We had a case one time where we came in for a preliminary, which is, mostly questions and to scope the place out, impressions.
Mm-hmm.
I
do the same thing.
And it was me, Jennifer, and Reverend Chamingwan Pond, who has passed away. Rest in peace. She's an amazing lady. Anyways, it was one of her congregation members had asked to talk with us because she noticed her dog was acting different than normal. Mm-hmm. And the dog was avoiding certain areas of the house and would look at things that wasn't there, just things that she noted wasn't the norm. And she felt she wanted to talk to somebody about it because she knows that's, the unknown. And that's one of the things Chami, Reverend Chamingwan Pond was, adept at. So we came in and we asked you questions and everything. And we said, while we're here, why not, have you ever had your place blessed before? And she said, no. I said, well, why don't we have Chami do that now? So Chami did. She blessed the place and we left. And then we got notified. I think it was like a week and a half later. She asked what we did. to change the situation. So, but we really didn't do anything aside from acknowledge the problem, and and Chami blessed the house. The dog is acting normal. So,
I found that true of many places. There was a lady I know who's a devout Catholic. She had a priest come and bless her house. All the paranormal events that she had witnessed, apparitions, the whole thing, all gone. So sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes a simple blessing. And as I mentioned, every religious group throughout the world that I know of has some sort of ritual to do that. The Jewish faith has it. The Mormons do it. Evangelical Christians do it. Catholics do it. Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, they all have faith. Buddhists do it, as well as Hindus and others. So it is universal to man, and it can work. But again, you have to believe it. If you are a Buddhist and a Catholic priest comes and gets rid of your blesses your house, it won't get rid of the ghost. But if a Buddhist came in, it will. It is a theory that ghosts take energy from the living. And that's how they energize to manifest themselves. Now, if you believe that a blessing will get rid of the ghost, whatever it is, entity, if you believe it, you will not give that energy to it, and it'll fade away. That's a theory. We don't really know for sure, but it would make sense. So religious elements have to be taken into account in any investigation. And then what you describe is exactly what I do as well. You have to do a walkthrough, a preliminary, and then, of course, I don't do any investigating until after I ascertain if it's worth doing, if the events are recurrent and spontaneous as opposed to just a one-time happening. Many times that occurs. People have an event occur once, and that's it. They never have anything else happen for the rest of their lives, just this one event. And it might be quite dramatic. One lady that I know of was ironing in her kitchen, and she saw a man with a coonskin hat and a leather jacket like Daniel Boone walk through her kitchen and then walk through the wall.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And it was quite distinct. I even drew a picture of what she saw. And he wasn't carrying a long rifle or anything like that. Just this guy in an odd costume walking through her house. And nothing else ever happened. Nothing. No, he didn't come back. And nothing was disturbed. Just this one bizarre, weird happening. But many times this occurred. Now, obviously, you don't want to do an investigation if it's a one-shot deal that may not happen again. It's when things are recurring over and over again, where it's really frightening the family, when they're starting to become thinking about moving because it so terrifies them. That's when you have to come in.
Right. When they're all sleeping in one room, or they won't be alone, or they'll, for sure. For sure.
Now, when pets act really funny, as you were talking about, looking at things that aren't there, cats and dogs, birds especially, are very temperamental to haunted events and haunted sites. A guy in the Midwest did an experiment, I think it was in Arkansas, in which he went to a haunted house. He brought in all these animals to see how they behave, and he found that the most sensitive animal was a rattlesnake. It would coil up and strike at the corner where the ghost was seen.
Wow. And they got them thermal pits and stuff. It makes you wonder.
Well, here's the thing, though, is I don't advise people to take rattlesnakes with them ghost hunting.
Right.
But how do rattlesnakes pick up their danger and prey? It's in their tongue. And they're picking up vibrations. They're picking up smells and stuff. So it could give us a clue of how a ghost can be perceived.
That's interesting because, yeah, they say everything is vibration, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. So if that's the case,
it makes sense.
If they have like nature's ultimate vibration detector, for example, and if there's something, I mean, because we speculate a ghost is something, right? I mean, it's not just nothing. When we see them, there's something there. That makes sense. When you said the word vibration, it kind of clicked with me. Like, yeah.
So it's, but still, there's much we don't know. I believe that ghosts are not one thing. I think when we get to the answer, it's going to be several things. Right. Some ghosts behave just like the ghosts of folklore. I mean, the spirits of the dead who come back for one reason or another. Some are just like that, but they only actually make up us like 20%. And then there's all these other things. People who see ghosts of people who are still alive, who aren't dead yet. Or people who've actually encountered ghosts of people who never lived, like characters from fiction. People have seen, Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer and Sherlock Holmes and all. What in the world's that? And people have even seen ghosts of themselves. I mean, what in the world is that thing? There's even a name for it. It's called the doppelganger.
Yep.
But people have real ghosts might well be reflective of other elements, such as time warps. We might, when we see a ghost, be looking forward or backwards in time. Like that lady doing her ironing might have witnessed something that occurred 150 years earlier, when some coonskin cap wearing a mountain man walked through her area where her house was built, and she caught that glimpse from that that past episode. Other people have seen other weird things, people dressed in strange costumes. One lady was at a stoplight at a street where a lot of ghost happenings have occurred, and she was 2:30 in the morning, totally deserted. She stopped at the light, and a car went past her, but the car had no wheels. It was completely silent. It was shaped like a box. It had two headlights. It had one window that went around the entire top of the car, or whatever it was, and it hovered past her. And past her, went down the street. She saw two red taillights, but it was floating above the ground. What in the world had she seen? Was this some car from the 27th century? Is this going to be the Aerostar 2099? I don't know. Well, they don't need tires anymore. So had she looked forward into the future? When we see UFOs, are we somehow not seeing spaceships, but seeing into the future where we're just watching George Jetson going to work, in his flying car? So we don't know what we're dealing with. So some of it might be time warps. Others might be interdimensional warps. It's believed there are other dimensions like our own, parallel worlds where duplicates of ourselves exist. And they're out doing their thing. And occasionally their universe and ours kind of collide, and we see briefly glimpses of that world, which might explain doppelgangers. You are getting ready for work, and so is your counterpart in the other world, and briefly you see them. And then, of course, that hole in the dimensions seals itself, and they disappear. And, of course, we might well be their ghosts. They might see us and go, oh, isn't that weird? So there are different theories about what it all might be. And I have yet to find an answer that would solve all of these riddles. But there's still a lot of work to be done. And this is a place where the amateur can really make a find or make a difference. So I urge people to take up ghost hunting, take it up and see if they can maybe get one answer or two to this, what I believe is the greatest riddle of them all, the greatest adventure out there.
For sure. when we come in, it's like, you're right. Like, what kind of haunting or ghost are we dealing with? And there's so many different kinds. Of course, they break them up into residual and intelligent, right?
Yeah.
And then of course, there's topas, and then you got the psychic kinetic stuff, and there's so many different possibilities. Just that in itself can sometimes be the challenge to identify. Okay, again, like, how is this person perceiving this? What's going on here? Is this something where they're totally unbiased and you're getting what you're getting, or is there, like you said, some kind of like energy that somehow is fueling this particular this event from happening? Or at other times,
it's sort of like many Christian friends I have who don't believe in ghosts. They don't have there are no ghosts. They're all in heaven or hell or what have you. Yet they have paranormal things happen to them, but they say they're angels. So, like this one fellow who's devout Christian, he was in his car and he blew a tire on the freeway and he was out of control with the front tire. And his car wasn't that great of a car anyway, but he was swerving. The whole place was full of traffic and he was in the fast lane, which he probably shouldn't have been in. He blew this tire. And he said a figure all in white helped him grab the steering wheel and propel it and managed to get control again. And he maneuvered it through traffic to the other side of the freeway to safety. And then the figure smiled at him and vanished.
Wow.
And he believes it was an angel. And I asked him, well, what did the figure look like? Do you have wings or something? No wings, just a white choir robe kind of affair. But it looked just like his Uncle Charlie. But if you know the Bible, when you die, you can't become an angel. The Bible says angels were made by God.
Right.
They have no sex. He just makes them as he needs them, I need 20 angels. Boop, there you go. And so that you can't, even if you're the greatest guy on earth, you could become a saint maybe, you could become a member of the elect, but you can never be an angel. Angels are a separate group of creation. Right. So what had he seen? But his Christian belief would not allow him to think his beloved Uncle Charlie came and saved his tail. And that's so he made it into an angel that he could accept. And he thought maybe now his Uncle Charlie is an angel. Well, maybe in some way he is. Who knows? But so a person's belief system has a lot to do with how they perceive an event. Something happens.
Can we take a break here so we can?
Yeah. All right. You were listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Alrighty, we're back, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. We're glad you are with us as always. There are some Facebook group pages we want you to check out. The Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one, for those people who like conspiracies, crimes, and corruption. Also check out Lake Monstrosities, dedicated to aquatic mysteries and wonders of all kinds. Feel free to join them both. We'd love to see you there. Each network mentioned has a group and like page on Facebook as well, so go check that out for upcoming content. This show is brought to you by the 5-star Reader Choice Award-winning epic fantasy trilogy Helm by Robert L. Malik. And back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking to Richard Sennett. Are you still with us, Richard?
By all means.
All righty. So this is our last segment, and we want to turn everybody on listening onto your books. And like I said, we haven't had you on in 4 years. So I guess to start, what book is out? What's the newest book out, or the newest one you have out? And then we can go from there.
Well, one of my books is about a city here in California called Oxnard. And Oxnard is an old city, dates back to 1902, and I did a study on it. So my first focus on ghosts was back in the 1980s. I did a complete study, and I continue to collect data on Oxnard. And I proposed to my publisher to do a trilogy about Ojai, Ventura, and Oxnard, but they didn't want to do the Oxnard one. And they, of course, went out of business. So I said, heck, I'll write it anyway. So I wrote it up, and it's on Amazon, Amazon.com, called The Ghosts of Oxnard. And it has all of the various investigations I did there. I included accounts of UFOs, which have happened there, and other bizarre and strange stories that I collected in my work over in Oxnard. So that's my newest book. Another book which I really like, and I did that a couple of years back, it's called The Ghosts of Santa Barbara. And it talks about Santa Barbara County, which is just north of where I live, where I've managed to do a lot of investigations. And I've listed places that are haunted and encounters, including the one at the Mission La Purissima, which we talked about a little bit tonight, one of the most haunted of the California missions, as well as the old mission in Santa Barbara itself. A unique element, a unique area, and I do recommend it. Now, all of my books are on Amazon.com. In fact, I have an author's page. Just click on Amazon.com author's page, Richard Sennett, and you can get a listing of all of my books that I have on there that you can get a hold of. The one I really like is called A Ghost Stalker's Guide to Haunted California. And that covers the whole state, and it's places I have personally investigated for the most part. I don't like to talk about spots that I picked up from another book or another source. I like to go places I've personally gone to and people that I know have investigated it. I wanted to try to do different and new things rather than rely on old, well-established data. So I try to plow new fields rather than go to the old fields and replow them. I have a book still in print called The Haunted Southland, which is also a very good copy about Southern California and the many ghosts here, a lot of them in Hollywood. Unfortunately, my book on Hollywood ghosts called The Fabulous Ghosts of Hollywood is out of print right now. But if you can find a copy, it'll be quite valuable someday. And that was all places I personally have gone to, not stuff that have been mined out of other sources and stuff like that. So I've got those titles and a number of others. I've also dabbled in fiction. One of the ones I like is called Fade to Fear, which is a haunted house novel. And it's about an old silent movie director's home that's haunted. Now, it's actually based on real cases. But, of course, it's 5 haunted houses I actually all put together in one fictional story. And I tried to base it on real events as much as I could. So, of course, the ending is fictional, of course. I have another book on Pulp Fiction. I actually wrote a biography as well of the writer Earl Stanley Gardner, who lived briefly in Ventura. I met him and spoke with him. He wrote and created Perry Mason. Remarkably, I wrote this book on his life. It's called Earl Stanley Gardner's Ventura, the Birthplace of Perry Mason. And it sold terribly in America, but remarkably in Canada, it sold greatly. I mean, one place in Toronto must have sold about 300 copies of that book, and it sold well in Great Britain, too. So if you can find a copy of that, it's very rare. Some have urged me to print that book, but I don't think I will. I had a problem with the printer, and it kind of a legal problem with it, kind of screwed things up. But it was a fascinating project. So I've tried a lot of different genres. I've even tried my hand at Pulp Fiction. I wrote called The Red Mask of Murder. I wanted to try to write something in that style. And I even wrote a children's book called Wendy Van Houten's Amazing Circus. And I tried to recall some of the folklore of the American circus, which is now a dying institution. So I love writing. In fact, I wrote my first book when I was 13, a novel, horrible. I still have it. I never printed it, of course, but I did it. The very fact that I finished it is a monument to my tenacity. And in my career, I've written about 78 books.
Wow!
Of which about 22 have been published. So writing them is one thing, getting them published, that's quite a different thing. And even the published books, I wrote one about time travel, and it did not sell well. It was like a complete didn't work. And it was called The Mullet Man Chronicles. And it just did not work very well. So I've tried different styles. I've tried writing plays. I've actually had a couple of plays produced. It was kind of amazing. They were comedies. And it's really, as a writer, to listen to an audience laugh at the jokes you write and the actors say. If they say them in the right way, they get a laugh. It gives you a big boost. Like, great. So I've written about 5 plays, and I've had 2 actually done, and they seem to like them. So I enjoy writing. It's a madness. Maybe it's therapy. I don't know, but it gives me an out to attach to something within me that I think needs to be expressed. But I'm very proud of my paranormal books because they're based on reality. My detractors say I just write fiction, but it's not fiction. It's things I've actually done, seen, and experienced firsthand, and witnesses I've talked to, engaging them. Were they telling me the truth? Where were they coming from? What was their opinion? So I've done very well with them, and a lot of people seem to like them. I've also written for Fate magazine and a number of other publications, mostly local, mostly California stuff. But I enjoy writing, and I will continue to write probably to the day I die. And hopefully my new book, which is called The Ghosts of Ventura and Santa Paula, and it's based around a fictitious monster, well, not fictitious, believed to be cryptid, which haunts Santa Paula, called the Billy Whack Monster. So the title of the book is The Billy Whack Monster and the Ghosts of Santa Paula and Ventura. So I put my newest stuff into that particular project, which I hope to have out on Amazon on the 13th of December, Friday the 13th. That's my rollout deadline.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Well, I enjoy writing, and some people seem to actually enjoy my stuff. And so I will gladly. Oh, I've also written a few other things for a magazine called the Edgar Rice Burroughs Chronicles. He wrote Tarzan and the Mars books, Edgar Rice Burroughs. And he was the first great writer I started to read. And so for the magazine, I've actually written some pastiches, some fan fiction, one about Pellucidar, another about Mars. But those I never got not one penny from. But I got a lot of people like them. So, in fact, if you want to, you can go on their website. You can download them for free and read them and tell me what you think, if you like them or not. If you don't like them, don't tell me. I don't need negativity. But if you like them, say so. And about 5,000 people have read them so far. They've all seemed to like them. So I do continue to write. That's all I'm saying. And I'm going to finish on this project. I hope to have it done by Halloween, but I wasn't able to do it. And it just took longer than I thought. So we're going to try for the Friday the 14th. And I'll work on some new project before then or after that.
We should give a shout out to Fate Magazine because our producer is the voice for Fate Magazine Radio. So it was cool that you wrote some articles for Fate Magazine in the past.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. We should probably wrap this up. Where can people reach you? Like if they want to, message you. Yeah.
Well, I'm on the internet, richardsennett.com. You can find me there. Or I have a page on Facebook called Richard Sennett Ghost Hunter. And I have several pages, one called Richard Sennett Ghost Hunter Newsletter, where I update things. And then, of course, they can always just contact me through there, message me through Facebook or what have you. And I'm always able to answer questions or appear on radio shows. Or if they have a haunting, I might like to give them advice about it. But I've gotten people calling me from England or even the Far East, from Hong Kong, about ghosts and things of that nature. I don't mind answering questions. I like to share my knowledge. I'm not selfish about that. I want as many people to learn what I've learned, maybe confirm what I've found. Maybe we can find some answers to some of these many riddles out there. What are ghosts and why are they here?
Sounds like a plan. We'd like to thank Richard Sennett for being such a wonderful guest and so informative. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, we enjoyed this greatly. Feel free to support any of the networks mentioned here tonight, as well as the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, 501c3 nonprofit organization, by donating. It's folks like you who ensure all these excellent organizations will be here tomorrow. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
Thank you. Good night, and God bless. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you here next time.
Good night, everyone.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.